We Make Movies Film Geeks podcast, episode number 58 with the inaccurate intro. Welcome to the We Make Movies podcast, making the world a better place, one film at a time. And now, here are your hosts, otherwise known as the director, the actress, and who the hell is that guy? Chad, Michelle, and Garrett. Hello and welcome to the We Make Movies Film Geeks podcast, the podcast that's all about how to get your movie made, how to get it seen by other people, and how to get it awesome. I'm your host, Garrett Robinson. With me, as always, faithful co-host Chad Kukihiko. With us, not as always, Ryan D. Thompson, filling in for Michelle.
Hello!
with one of the best lower thirds. I love that. Here's my Twitter handle, at RDT156. I should tweet more.
I really should.
This is one of the two official podcasts of the We Make Movies filmmaking community in Los Angeles. We are all independent filmmakers, or sometimes just geeks, or sometimes both. And we are broadcasting live on this Sunday afternoon. If you're watching the live YouTube video, please feel free, comment. We can bring your comments up and answer them live. It's very cool and pretty. We begin, as always, with community news, and as always, also, we like to remind you, if you are an audio listener, or if you're not, please find the We Make Movies Film Geeks podcast on iTunes and rate the show. Whatever your rating is, it helps. The more ratings we get, the more people will find the show, and your recommendation, or not, helps iTunes recommend us to other people who maybe will also enjoy us. If you hate the show, maybe don't, say that. No, leave it honest. Yeah, leave an honest review, whatever it is, but reviews and ratings are one of the things that help people find shows, so that would be fantastic. Next up, this Wednesday is the regular Writers' Workshop at the Theater Asylum in Hollywood on Santa Monica. It's at 7:30 p.m., free event as always. There's wine, there's snacks, and you get to hear live readings of scripts from members of the We Make Movies community by members of the We Make Movies community. It's a fantastic place to meet people and so forth. Chad, do you want to talk about Canon?
Yeah, How We Make Movies will be at Canon again this week, shooting the next couple of episodes of How We Make Movies. It's Tuesday, August 19th. Starts at 6:30 p.m. If you are interested, go to wemakemovies.org/RSVP, and you can get onto the list. Our guests this week are going to include Joshua Caldwell, the writer-director of a film called Layover, not to be mistaken with David Aslan's Layover, which was executive produced by We Make Movies in our second slate. It's not that Layover. This Layover by Joshua Caldwell was made, it's a feature, and it was made for only $6,000. And Layover screened, $6,000. Apparently he called in a gazillion favors. He also shot it, I guess, over 4 different weekends and just paid actors and bought food, and that was it. Everything else, people were basically volunteering. Layover screened, I believe, at Dances with Films this year, and it sounds like a really cool movie. It got a really rave review by Art Chong yesterday. He was telling me all about it, so he's excited to see that interview. The other group of guests that will be interviewed are Kate Reese-Davies, who's a director, and actor Elroy Mendez, both from the film The Vanished. Just because I've been, listening to classical music, I want to say The Vanished, but I believe it's probably The Vanished. Anyway,
what does that have to do with classical music? Hold on.
Well, it reminds me of Shakespeare. And Shakespeare, of course, who sometimes, depending on how the line scans. Anyway, so Kate she also has had 3 short films screen at Cannes, and is currently in post-production on a feature film she shot on the Canon C300 in just 5 days. So again, to go right now to wemakemovies.org/RSVP to get on the list, and don't forget that one lucky guest is going to win a Surface RT. So
excellent. You also have a note in here about how you're going to explain what's next is. So why don't you?
Yes, I basically copied that over from an old 2 weeks ago, but I might as well. I forgot to delete that part, but I might as well since it's in there. What's next is coming up. It is on the 27th, so I think it's a week from this upcoming Wednesday, and it's basically the one night every 2 months that we get to really focus on post-production, on basically everybody but writers and actors. Every other night we basically focused on just the writers and the actors, and sometimes just the actors with our games night. I think my opinion is showing. Is that showing? But at any rate,
Put your opinion back in your pants, Chad.
I'll put it back in my pants. I would love it if What's Next was more often, but it's not. So unfortunately, you really only have the one night every 2 months, and this is the only night, especially if you are writer, director, post person, sound person, whatever. You can bring your stuff. This is the night that is just for you. So we're already booked up on this particular one, but definitely come by, see what it's about, pipe in, and if there are projects that you really want to be a part of or whatever, or filmmakers that you'll definitely want to meet them. Come and see them and be a part of What's Next on the 20th.
I will be screening overnight at What's Next, getting some notes on post-production, because that's going through a repost, if you will, where I'm redoing the post on that, because I'm going to be actually releasing that and putting it online and blah 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 blah. Yes, on PornTube.com.
PornhubTube.
PornhubTube.
Right.
PornTube.
Not familiar with these websites.
Oh, come on, Ryan. You have them bookmarked. Oh,
No, this is the work computer. I don't.
I saw a fantastic comic strip, by the way. I do not read comics as often as I would like to, just because of time. I will get back into it one day. I want to have a comic podcast. But there is this excellent panel where Deadpool and Spider-Man are working together, which is always fantastic. And Deadpool is hanging on Spider-Man's back while he's climbing a building. And Deadpool's like, oh my God, can you imagine if people saw us like this? And because he's always he's like, Deadpool's the guy who breaks the fourth wall. And Spider-Man's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, just if our fans saw us in this position, I mean, imagine the fan fiction that would erupt. And Spider-Man's like, I literally don't know what you're talking about. And Deadpool's like, obviously you and I visit very different websites. Pretty amazing. Well, let's break into the general news items for the week. And Chad, you're up first.
Skylar Moore, a contributor to Forbes, posted an article last week about the current system of pre-selling indie films in foreign countries, and basically he was saying that it's going to be a victim of Netflix in the coming years as Netflix starts to reach worldwide. And my first response when reading this article was, and actually let me just back up a little bit because I don't know if I fully explained that well. What Skylar Moore is saying is that as Netflix starts to grow worldwide, pre-sales are going to start to plummet. Pre-sales of indie films, which are actually one of the main sources of income for independent films. Not, I don't think, independent films at our level, because we're really truly independent, but the sort of current mainstream of what they still call independent films. So that's what this article was about. My first response when I read this article was, people are still getting money from pre-sales. And then my second was, duh. And then my third was, oh well, because it's pretty clear to me that old way of making independent films is more or less kind of a dinosaur anyway. I mean, yes, it's happening now and then, but I mean, really, is that the future? I don't think so. So this guy was like, Skylar was saying it was, it's dying, and it's like, I don't know. My response was, I think it's, yeah, we need to move on. I mean, we indie artists need to be coming up with ways to embrace the particular means of connecting directly with our audience. Anyway, I'll get into this a little bit below, but I think that this is obviously a topic that I cover all the time. Developing your audience, your particular audience, and connecting with them directly is really, in my opinion, the only real means of survival for the true independents. So, sorry, Skylar.
That's why I write Bigfoot porn. I mean,
Right.
like, I'm trying to find my audience, and they like what they like.
Goat porn, too, for me.
Yeah, we love it.
So just because this is a small clarification for me, when you say pre-sales, you mean pre-sales to distributors?
Well, I mean, basically, I'm not exactly sure how it works, but what I do know is that independent films, and even currently, a lot of their money will come from pre-sales. Like, they'll basically say, okay, you're going to get this film. I don't know exactly how it works, but like different countries will like buy it. Different people in different countries will buy it ahead of time based on who's in the cast,
Right.
who's
The
directing.
poster.
But if everybody's going to be
Yeah,
able to
right.
get it on Netflix, then the foreign distributors will
Exactly.
be like, oh, what I
Pre-sales
don't
are going to
care.
go exactly.
Okay.
I mean, but I don't think I would venture a guess to, and I would say that probably this pre-sale market is already kind of drifted.
I mean, do we really need the middlemen is like my question. It's like, yeah, we won't have pre-sales, but people will be watching us on Netflix around the world. How is this a bad thing?
Right, exactly. I mean, I think that, there is an argument that Netflix doesn't give people the money that they, the true, but I mean, over time, maybe they'll be able to afford it, or, I don't know. And there'll be, I mean, listen, Netflix will not be the only player. At the end of the day, we're going more and more and more every day towards sort of a global community and a global economy. So I think we should just embrace it. And find the ways to sort of connect directly with, I'm just going to repeat myself. So.
It's fun. Yeah, it's funny. Like I see it just moving towards direct sales, which is like exactly what's happening in music and books and everything is like just get your customers to come to you and just sell directly to them. It's like that's awesome.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of stand-up comedians have been doing that too.
Like
with their own hour-long special. They just sell it directly through their own websites.
I think
Louis C.K. made like $1 million on one special, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, more than that. I mean, within the first month, I think he'd made $1 million. But
I remember him like he sent out a picture. It's like, here's my PayPal balance, $1 million, and everybody was like, and everybody was like, yay, Louis, and like some people were like, you're so privileged. It's like, okay,
come on,
shut up. Okay.
Yeah, right. I think that. That stand-up comics are the first ones. I mean, I have always been yearning for the day that independent artists are going to be. I don't think the technology is there yet for independent filmmakers to be where independent musicians are right now.
Right.
Independent musicians.
Because you're talking about a 1 gigabyte file as opposed to music, which is like you can just toss music into your iTunes.
Absolutely.
A movie, like nobody fucking wants to wait to download. Nobody, has the streaming capability, but we'll get there.
Right, yeah.
Mind if I jump ahead?
Go ahead.
So they are making, I am so ashamed to even be doing this segment. They're making a new Power Rangers movie. I couldn't not report on this because I'm going to admit this. I was an avid Power Rangers fan back in the day. I was very young. I didn't know. But when I was 8 years old, I was the Red Ranger for Halloween. And that costume was skin tight, just skin tight. So the film is coming out in
trying to get that image out of my mind. So
thank you. I was 8 years old, Chad. You
God.
So it's coming out in 2016, which is right around the time that my son will want to go and see it. So that's going to be grueling. But here's one piece of good news for future me, who will have to watch it in the theaters probably on multiple occasions. It's being written by the same guys who wrote X-Men First Class. So hopefully it's not like a crap fest, And from what they're saying, it's going to undergo like a modern reinvention of the Power Rangers. So
a gritty reboot.
Yeah, but like I always have said that if the Transformers didn't turn into what it became, a modern gritty reboot of Transformers would have been like the best thing. Like it would have been like what Marvel did with their movies for their franchise. Could have been. Yeah, exactly. If they'd done it right. So I don't know. Maybe like Power Rangers. Like
who's doing it? I mean, who's directing it?
They haven't named one yet. They haven't named a director yet.
Yeah, I think that and is Saban still in charge?
Who?
Because it's Saban Entertainment. They're the
ones. Yeah. No.
If they're still in charge, if they're still the producing wing,
right? I don't have high hopes.
Yeah.
And I know that it's not going to be, but wouldn't it be awesome if Power Rangers became like this huge movie franchise that like actually people were kind of like, yeah, I'll go see the new Power Rangers movie. All right.
I'm not holding my breath.
Hey, the Ninja Turtles movie made bank, so
yeah. I have heard from many people that was like, oh, okay, yeah, it was a Ninja Turtles movie. Yeah.
Wasn't that all that awful? Because the Rotten Tomatoes are pretty bad.
Yeah, it was, but it's making the movie the money, and people have been like, I looked at it and then I honestly and genuinely compared it to the movies in the late '80s and early '90s, and I was like, yeah, okay. So anyway, the movie is going to come out on July 22nd, 2016, which puts it up against Guy Ritchie's King Arthur and the next Bourne movie. So if it does suck massively, we can hope that it's a massive box office disaster and they don't make another one. But 2016, here we go.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Wow. Ninja Turtles has made $117 million domestic, 65 foreign, for $185 million worldwide in less than 2 weeks. So
Yeah. Here we go, Ninja Turtles.
All right. Speaking of superheroes,
Yes.
Let's talk about them. Warner Brothers and DC Comics recently announced a whole grip of upcoming release dates, all the way up through 2019. Although titles haven't been confirmed yet, other than Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Rumored to be getting their own flick are The Justice League, a new Batman solo adventure starring Mr. Affleck, Wonder Woman, which it's about time if you ask me, a Flash Green Lantern team-up, woohoo, that makes me super stoked because the Flash and the Green Lantern are my two favorite superheroes, and there's never been a Green Lantern movie that I've ever seen.
No,
on the big
they haven't made one yet. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. No,
Nope.
no. And, of course, Aquaman. Yes, again, if rumors are to be believed, the studio recently commissioned 2 different screenwriters to each draft their own badass take on the titular fish talker, which is what I'm calling him now, titular fish talker.
I just love that it has the word tit in it. That's
yeah.
my favorite.
As my friend Jason says, for the comic book fan out there, we're living in a golden age.
Yeah,
As long as the movies are good.
Yeah, that's the thing. Am I the only one who hasn't liked many DC films to date?
Nope.
I mean, I can.
Nope.
Yeah, okay. I can name 1 or 2. Like the Dark.
Ryan and I discuss this now and then. He and I don't necessarily see eye to eye, but I have yet. I mean, I've enjoyed. I love the Nolan brothers.
Right.
I love the Nolan, but they're not in it anymore. And at the end of the day,
the Nolan brothers.
yeah,
Christopher Nolan and
Jonathan Nolan.
Oh, right. Okay, never mind. Sorry, I thought. Yeah. Carry on.
I liked parts of Man of Steel. I disliked many parts of Man of Steel. Here's what gives me hope, just to go tangent a little bit. When Affleck was cast as Batman for the Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, he brought in his own writer, Chris Terrio. Chris Terrio wrote The Town. I believe helped him on Gone Baby Gone. This guy's a good, legit writer. And I don't know if they did a page 1 rewrite, but he's now the official screenwriter on the Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Let me retort.
It gives me hope. And I also hear that Affleck wants to direct the Batman movie, which really intrigues me. Yeah.
Allow me to retort.
Please retort.
The Transformers movies are written by some very, very, very good writers, and yet they're bad. Kirkman and Orsi and Aaron Kruger, they're all really good writers, and they've done all. Yes, they are. They did Star Trek.
They did what?
Star Trek.
What did they do?
What?
Kurtzman and Orsi are.
Wow. Okay, so I can see that this conversation is not going to go anywhere very productive. So
we'll talk tomorrow.
We're gonna move.
All right.
We're gonna move.
All right. So moving on. The California State Senate Appropriations Committee ruled unanimously this Thursday, mind you, there are only 5 members, but still 5 to zip, that they want to basically quadruple the tax subsidies for film shoots in California to make the new figure $400 million each year. Now,
I feel like I blew my load on that sound effect. That's so awesome. That's really
well. It's just the committee. It didn't make it out of the Senate, and I don't know Jerry Brown's. He could still veto it. I don't know, but just to put it into context. Since 1996, California film production has fallen basically in half. And since the LA County's production peak in 2007, production has fallen 73%. So, yeah, so anyway, and this is all according to Film LA, by the way. So tax subsidies in other states have been going up, and they've been drawing a lot of the production that used to happen here out of state. So if this new bill, AB 1830, 39 is approved by the full Senate and then signed by Jerry Brown, then it will actually become law. And supporters of this move are going to, obviously, I mean, I'm sure that it doesn't take a genius to see that if you're going to throw a lot of money at something, you're going to get some stuff back. So it's not a done deal yet, but we should know shortly if AB 1839 survives. So definitely stay tuned. I will let you know what I hear when I hear it.
That is super, super, super awesome. I mean, it's. I feel like it's a common fetching point in our industry that California just sucks to make films in, and yet, you kind of have to be here because it's where everybody is, but it's not where everybody who's being successful at it does it. Even the studios, shoot out of state whenever they can. So that's extremely good news. Speaking of, no, this has nothing to do with that. My story is unrelated completely. Speaking of other films, so Sin City, Dame to Kill For comes out this Friday. This brings me to the question, is it ever just too late for a sequel? Sin City, the first Sin City, came out in 2005, which is 9 years ago. And I wouldn't say that like really, really, really late sequels are a thing necessarily. Reboots are more common, but with Sin City and then recently with The Hobbit, like I think The Hobbit would have been much better if they'd made it 3 or 4 years after Lord of the Rings,
or not made it at all.
Well, okay. I mean, but like a decade, I feel like the franchise did suffer, and whatever. So like, is it necessarily a bad or good idea to do these things, especially since Sin City, this new one, has scenes and sequences that are before the first one, but where people are just clearly older. Bruce Willis has aged a decade. Mickey Rourke is so made up that like he doesn't really matter. But what do you call it? Like Jessica Alba. I mean, when the film was, I'm not saying that Jessica Alba isn't still like totally smoking hot, but when that film was made, she was like a young 20-something. Like, oh my F. And now this is supposed to be even earlier in her life. And yet, so like, do you think that like you need to necessarily strike while the iron's hot, or just like if you're gonna do it again, do a reboot, or what? What do you guys think?
I think you make it a good movie. I mean, if you look at I saw your topic before, so I did a quick little search here, and The Color of Money, which is a direct sequel to The Hustler, came out 25 years later. So I just think
the sequel to Chinatown came out 16 years after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
what was the sequel to Chinatown?
The Two Jakes. I don't know how well it did. I've never actually seen it, but
I've never heard.
I've heard not great things.
Oh, really?
And I mean, The Color of Money is like, okay. I mean, I guess that's. Yeah, okay. I could see that as an argument for, but like, I don't know, especially. Okay, so but that's a sequel, right? And this is something that's taking place at like the exact same time, like the Star Wars sequels. Okay, that's a 30-year delay, but they're like, no, it's been 30, 40 years. Like, we're using the same actors, and they are old people now, and we're carrying on the storyline from like their kids in the next generation. That's a different thing.
I've heard parts of Sin City, the new Sin City, are prequel, but parts are also sequel. I think the Nancy stuff, the Jessica Alba stuff, is set at least a few years later. It's the Josh Brolin stuff that is a prequel.
Interesting.
I could be wrong though.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm probably killing my
own previews.
Yeah, I'm probably killing my own argument by saying I'm still definitely going to go see it because.
Yeah, Jessica Alba, though, her stuff. I mean, especially they can't be. I mean, maybe some of it's prequel, but most, at least just from the previews, she's obviously aged and she's been hurt, and you know what I mean. So definitely that's. But I by the way, I just noted that Two Jakes was directed by Jack Nicholson. Roman Polanski apparently didn't have anything to do with it, and so that might be a problem.
Maybe he was already out of the country.
Probably in 1990, yeah, I'm sure he was.
Well, let's kick it off. Let's kick on to Ryan.
Yo, hi. Sorry, I was looking up other late sequels. So speaking of sequels, a franchise that, in my opinion, has only gotten better with age, Mission Impossible. Director of MI5, Christopher McQuarrie, recently confirmed via his Twitter that Ving Rhames will be returning to the series. Other than titular star, I like the word titular, although it doesn't apply here. Other than star Tom Cruise, he's the only actor to appear in now all soon-to-be 5 films, though that was limited to just a cameo in the most recent Ghost Protocol. I really hope his character, Luther Stickle, has more to do in the next one. In addition to Rhames and Cruise, Simon Pegg, who was in MI3 and MI Ghost Protocol, and Jeremy Renner, also from Ghost Protocol, will be returning as well, along with new co-stars Rebecca Ferguson, last seen with Dwayne Johnson in Brett Ratner's epic Hercules, and Alec Baldwin is joining the cast as, I believe, the head of the CIA.
Alec Baldwin is he the one that said
retired from acting? Alec Baldwin is doing Mission Impossible 5.
All right, now, okay, I want to take first of all, yay on Ving Rhames, cool on the other casting choices and everything. I want to know, did you really like Mission Impossible 4 better than Ghost Protocol, better than 3? Oh man,
yeah,
not me. I
don't love JJ. I like 3. 3 is basically a big episode of Alias because it's the J.J. Abrams movie. I think 4 is probably. I think Ghost Protocol is probably my favorite of them all.
For me, what nailed 3 was the villain, and of course, I mean, it was Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah.
And anyway,
the storyline around him. I mean, God, he was evil, and he was so hateful. You know what I mean? It really, in my opinion, the storyline was much more effective. It got me more.
Yeah, what I liked about it is they never reveal what the MacGuffin is. That's what I really enjoy about 3, is they never once even intimate, like, what is it? They just call it the rabbit's foot, and that's it. I like that about 3, but I like 4 just a little bit more.
Protocol was really good. It lost me in the final fight scene. That's where it really lost me, because you've got this old business-type Swiss-German dude duking it out with Tom Cruise. And I'm like, no, dude, like, you're old, you're gray, he's buff, he just climbed up the fucking Tower of Dubai. You are dead. He has killed you within 10 seconds of this fight. And that's where I really, like, up until that time, I was really enjoying it. And then I was like, okay, fine, I guess.
It was fun. It was like a roller coaster ride, but I mean, just from beginning to end, 3 just had me. I mean, it was the way they killed that girl right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And it's like, it had me. Emotionally, I was drawn in immediately.
For sure.
Anyway, that was a
But
tangent.
I am looking forward to 5. That should be really cool. It's
all
I didn't like 4.
Sorry?
I was just going to say, full disclosure, I know the stunt coordinator for 4, so.
Aha.
Oh.
So I have a little bit of a personal connection.
Understood.
So
Even if you
he's
didn't
listening,
like it more,
you
have to say you like it more.
I do. That's legit. I do.
Gotcha.
All right, well, let's move into the main topics. We had a last-minute topic rearrangement here, so I'm gonna do my main topic first. Star Wars. Star Wars information has leaked, and about Episode 7, obviously. And we still have to. I want to preface this, and I will also end it by saying none of this is confirmed. We still have to wait and see how this plays out in the final film. But the details that are coming out are fucking epic. So here's some bullet points. The villains in the new trilogy, villains, plural, are supposed to be Sith Inquisitors, which essentially would be, I mean, per canon, remains to be seen how they do it in the movie, but they're essentially Sith warriors that are trained by the Empire to hunt down Jedi in the galaxy, and they would have been active from the uprising in Order 66 onward. If that's true, that means that they're doing away with the rule of 2, which was like a rule that there can only ever be one Sith master and one Sith apprentice, and that was the Emperor and Vader, which is why Vader and Palpatine were both trying to get Luke to kill the other one on his journey to the dark side, because then he would become the apprentice of whichever one he didn't kill. Now, if this is the case and the Sith Inquisitors are going to be the bad guys, many people are speculating that Gwendolyn Christie, who plays Brienne of Tarth in the Game of Thrones series, will be one of the Sith Inquisitors. However, if that is the case, it doesn't look like she'll be the main bad guy, at least in the first one. A photo of the main bad guy was leaked, and it was a dude. He's all cyborged up. Actually, I say photo, but it's actually a drawing, like really, really advanced concept art. That's the best way to put it. It's color. It's very, very nice. It's not just like a sketch. So he looks a little bit like Vader, but without the mask, like all cyborg stuff, and like his lower jaw is all metal and yada yada. And J.J. Abrams tweeted a photo of a message to his fans, something that he wrote on a piece of paper thanking them for the massive charity fundraiser that they all contributed to, raised like $5 million or some shit. Totally awesome. The message was written on a piece of paper being held by a cybernetic hand, which the cybernetic hand matches the guy that was in the tweeted picture that was leaked. So that's looking pretty solid. But unfortunately, this is leading a lot of people to speculate that Gwendolyn Christie would die in Episode 7. So I happen to love her very, very much, so I don't want her to die. But the main bad guy could die, and she could become the new main bad guy as well. Either of these things could happen.
Wait, one question, because
Yes.
what you said seems like there might be. Okay, so the Inquisitors are always equals. That one couldn't the Inquisitor one be a master and one be an apprentice?
Well, yes, but this ties into the next point. Part of establishing the Inquisitors is supposedly a lengthy flashback sequence at the beginning of Episode 7 that will slightly retcon the Star Wars history from the original trilogy and the prequels. In the flashback sequence, we would see the establishment of the Inquisitors by Palpatine when Darth Vader is still in his prime. So in other words, from the beginning, there would have been more than just the two Sith. And they would have been out there searching the galaxy for more Jedi, blah, 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 blah.
I see.
And I understand why they have to do that, because at the end of Episode 6, the Empire's like they make it look like the Empire's gone. The Emperor's dead, Vader's dead, the Death Star's gone, everything. So, but in this flashback sequence, that is, again, just a rumor, we will see the establishment of the Inquisitors, and we'll also see Darth Vader in his prime, right when he became Vader and became cybernetic. And so the original Big Daddy of Evil will be returning to the screen, presumably voiced by James Earl Jones, because who else would you use? So the flashback sequence will also feature Princess Leia as a younger girl, and Carrie Fisher's daughter, whose name is Billie Lourd, has been cast in the film. So people are pretty sure that she's going to be playing a very young Princess Leia. My prediction, on a very, very small detail, is that the flashback sequence will end with a close-up of Billie Lourd, which will crossfade into a close-up of Carrie Fisher as the older Leia, because that's the only character who's going to be in the flashback and the thing. So that's just a very specific prediction, but I would not be surprised if that's the case. And then the last big thing that got leaked was that we've seen the new Stormtrooper attire. Their helmets look basically the same, but like much more sleek and high-tech. And the idea is to convey that time has passed, like decades of time, and everybody's had time to upgrade and get better technology. Honestly, this is one thing I am not super happy about, because one of the best things about the old trilogy, especially compared to the new one, is that despite like immense technology, where they've got faster than light and weaponized lasers and everything was dirty and dingy and clunky as fuck, which is like an old, old society. It's like you get your flashy doohickey that synthesizes matter out of atoms and whatever, but once the novelty's worn off, you stick it in the corner and it rusts and gets dirty, because you don't get rid of dirt and rust. And like that is one thing that they tried to do in the prequels. Like everything's so clean and so and it was less awesome to me. So anyway, but of course one picture of one helmet doesn't mean anything, so we'll see how it goes. None of these rumors are confirmed. We have to wait for next year to see what's what, but this is like super exciting. And I think that the frequency and timing of these accidental leaks is actually just really, really smart marketing by Abrams and Disney and everybody, because I have not stopped thinking about it for a long time. So
yes, you get the hype going when things get leaked.
Yeah, exactly. Leaked. Well, Ryan, do you want to take your segment next? We're going to have Chad wrap out the show.
Sure, sure. So just to get a little serious here, I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Robin Williams. As I'm sure we all know, this brilliant actor, comedian, took his own life about a week ago. But rather than focus on that, I was hoping we could just talk a little bit about the man's achievements in his nearly four-decade career. Good Will Hunting, the movie for which he won the Best Supporting Actor Oscar, holds a special place in my own heart. I was actually at Emerson College in Boston when they were there shooting. One of my favorite spots in the whole world is the public gardens, and that's where they shot the garden scene between Williams and Matt Damon. Just yesterday, I actually finally watched The Fisher King for the first time. I know I probably should have seen it a long time ago, but I have to say this is just an utterly amazing film. This man had a career that ran the gamut, from the wackiness of Mork and Mindy and Jumanji and Hook, which gets shit on a lot, but I love Hook because I thought it was just... It was so well cast. Who better to play an adult Peter Pan than Robin Williams? From the wackiness of those projects to the absolute creepiness of 1 Hour Photo and Insomnia to his amazing performances in the aforementioned Good Will Hunting, Good Morning Vietnam, and of course Dead Poet Society. This man was a true talent. But not only that, by all accounts, he was also just a really, really good guy. In the last week, stories of how generous he was have started surfacing. I just want to pick out one that just really, to me, shows me just how good of a person he was. So in 2004, a terminally ill teenage girl's dying wish was to meet Robin Williams. The Make-A-Wish Foundation was able to arrange it, but she was too weak to travel. So Williams, unbeknownst to anybody, chartered his own plane, paid for it out of pocket, flew out to where this girl lived and spent the day with her playing cards and watching football.
Wow.
Soon after her passing, he donated a redwood tree in her honor.
Wow.
I just think that's an amazing story. And this was in 2004. This is before the time of Twitter and Facebook and social media. This wasn't a PR stunt. This is something where you just get the feeling that somebody came to him and said, look, she can't make it out here. And he just turned around and said, all right, book me a flight, get me a plane. I'm going to go to her.
That's amazing. That's really, actually...
Yeah. And then just, I also recently, I've been doing a ton of Robin Williams reading in the last week. Apparently he was an avid video gamer, and he actually named his daughter Zelda after Nintendo's Legend of Zelda and not F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife, as many people thought. I just feel like his death represents a true loss in this world, whether you knew him personally or knew of him, fan or not. He will be and already is missed. And I just want to say, if you have a moment, all these tributes have been flying around, a lot of the talk show hosts, but just take a minute and track down Jimmy Fallon's tribute from The Tonight Show earlier this week. I'd say of them all, it's probably my favorite. It's just so genuine and heartwarming, and it's up on the Tonight Show YouTube channel. So just check it out. It was great.
I have seen that. It's really sweet, and it's incredible. So
Yeah.
definitely check it out.
I'll definitely check that out, and I'm going to try to really make sure we put that link into our show notes too, so that people will be able to.
Please do.
I feel like a dickhead for putting my thing last at the last minute. I probably should have skimmed over Ryan's main topic because it's such a important thing, and I'm really glad you did that, Ryan. In hindsight, I wish we would have ended the show on it, so I apologize for. Yeah, he really was an amazing force, and it's such a loss. It's such a, I mean, there really are no words to really, describe how. I mean, what a life, man. What a
seriously
amazing guy.
He the one thing that like I talked about this, and I did a vlog about it on my YouTube channel this week, but it's just that that we had him as long as we did. So many people that are so amazing, and we lose so young, so at the beginning, like just that we got such a lengthy time with him is the one thing that I am really, really grateful for. Of course, it could have gone on for so much longer, but anyway, big salute and send off to him. He was one of the greats.
For sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's we'll move on since there's no good way to do that. So we'll just jump on in. Last week we had a guest on the show, Chris Fenwick from FCPX Grill and Digital Cinema Cafe podcasts. And during a story that I was doing about NFL Now's new service, Chris asked a very good question. He asked, "Why is this film news?" And if you're a regular watcher of the show, you probably know that we cover lots of different types of topics, rather. And not all of them are super film related, but there are tons of other reasons that I won't necessarily get into right now. But feel free to go back and watch last week's or listen to last week's podcast to get more on that particular story. But in a nutshell, it's just that film and TV are kind of blending together, and there's so much more to it. But anyway, if you're a regular watcher of the show, you probably understand. The only reason I'm actually bringing this up is not to rehash that, but to I'm really glad that Chris asked me that question, because I think sometimes, Garrett, Michelle, and we kind of, especially me, I take advantage of this because I consider myself sort of sort of an unofficial amateur social scientist. I'm fascinated with social sciences and the way that, and so my topics tend to stray a bit. And now and then something comes along that I feel is very, very important and gets really off of our typical sort of beats, And so, like, for instance, last April, something went down in the Hawaiian community that I felt was strong enough to answer. And that is basically, sort of in a super nutshell, I'm just going to kind of give you a little bit of a tease. Right after last week's show, I actually went down to Tustin with Denny, my brother, and we shot this thing. It was really fascinating. Within the Hawaiian community, and again, this is, I'm prefacing this with, this is not necessarily film news, but just like the hula app thing that we were covering back in late April, early May, this is important enough to me personally, and that I feel like this is one of the things that we can kind of discuss here. Ever since I was a child, I don't know if a lot of people don't even understand that there are native Hawaiians, but let's get beyond that for a second and pretend you're me for a moment. My whole life, I've been actually connected with fellow native Hawaiians through my own relatives, and there's always been, if you're at all familiar with Hawaii, you may know of the sovereignty movement has been kind of a thing that's been kicking around honestly since the 70s. It's been like in the news since the 70s. Whatever, Hawaiian news, you probably have never heard of it, but it is around. And I've always kind of thought, just to be completely honest, I've always thought of some of my cousins as kind of kooks. They've been into this thing, and it's like, oh, why would we ever do that? It doesn't make any sense. Well, last Sunday, I covered something that kind of blew my mind. And what I didn't know is that I've been hearing things going on since like late June, and I haven't really understand. I've tried to kind of dip in and try and figure out, just skim through, and I just honestly haven't been able to understand what has been going on. But a letter was written by one of the main people at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs that kind of blew everything up. And so that's kind of what we were covering. It did something to the basically the Department of the Interior got a little intimidated by it, so they're trying to create a sort of, for the first time ever, by the way, native Hawaiian government-to-government relationship, because they haven't, and that's been the thing that's bothered me my whole life. Now, and I'm not going to get too into this, but I want to just kind of let you know that this is actually something that's happening, give you a super sort of I don't know, abbreviated explanation of what's going on, and then give you a link if you are interested to go and check out more, because it is fascinating and it might blow your mind a little bit. If you are Hawaiian, it will definitely blow your mind, or if you're familiar with Hawaii. In a nutshell, this is what it is. The current sort of sovereignty movement is now being sort of led by this guy, Dr. Keanu Sai, and he's a professor at the University of Manoa. And that's obviously, depending on who you are, you may argue with that statement that I just made, but that's not entirely true from a lot of people's point of view. But he is really the intellectual, in my opinion, the intellectual power behind the current sovereignty movement, which is not about Hawaii seceding from the unions and us giving it back to Hawaii, but is instead actually based upon the very true fact that the Kingdom of Hawaii, which was a constitutional government from 1840 to 1893, was overthrown in 1893 by some Kingdom of Hawaii subjects who were of European and American descent, and it was not a good thing. I mean, worldwide, people frowned on it, and until the Spanish American War, I can't remember. I think it was the Spanish American War. It was on its way back. Like President Grover Cleveland was trying to get the people who overthrew the Queen to put it back. And then we've basically, in a nutshell, what's been happening is we've been living in that specific situation where we were overthrown without a treaty for 121 years. And there's never, ever been a treaty. Nobody surrendered. Nobody ceded any lands. So in essence, in the eyes of the international community, what this means is that Hawaii, the state of Hawaii, is basically a kingdom, a constitutional government that's been living under occupation for 121 years. So that's what the Department of that's kind of a trippy thing. Now there is a much longer and really, in my opinion, fascinating video. What we posted was the presentation from this guy, Dr. Keanu Sai, and then after that, the presentation from the Department of the Interior that they're basically trying to do this thing. And in fact, I think it's what's today? Today's the 17th. I think tomorrow is the deadline, which is insane that they would give basically people a month and a half and barely let anybody know that this is even going on. But as of tomorrow, the Department of the Interior is going to basically stop taking input from Hawaiians and then try and figure out, how to proceed moving forward. Dr. Keanu Sai is saying this is should not be in the hands of the Department of the Interior. There's a lot more to this. I can't really get into it all now. It honestly took Dr. Keanu Sai an hour and a half to get through it. But we've posted the video that we shot last weekend on Kendall's YouTube channel. It's available to anybody. And if you go to superfrico.com/Hawaii, you will see that whole video. And it's really fascinating. You should, even if you can't watch it, just listen to it because it's really, really amazing. And it might blow your mind. Now, over the next coming months, I'm going to try to actually cut together something that's a lot shorter than an hour and a half and has maybe some motion graphics to kind of show exactly what he's saying. But the ramifications of this are fascinating. Remember, President Obama was born in Hawaii. So, yeah, if it was never...
Donald Trump was right!
For all the wrong reasons.
It's going to be so hilarious to see all the conservative Republicans pushing for this.
Yeah, well, they could. I mean, whatever. I don't want to go too over, but it's a fascinating thing. Listen to it. The guy is really well spoken, and he knows what he's talking about, and it will probably blow your mind. So
okay, people, check it out. Superfrico.com/Hawaii.
That's right.
I will go check it out.
Do so.
Well, that is it for our topics for the show. Let's jump into things to know. Oh, you rearranged things to know too.
Well, just because, it was
2 really important topics, and then I have to come in and be the fucking shill plugging my own shit. My book came out on Friday. It's called Rebel Yell. Yay! It's literary fiction. It's quite different from the sci-fi and fantasy that I normally write. It's about independent art versus artistic industries. It's really pretty. You can look it up on Amazon where it's available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle, or you can buy it directly from me, which is beneficial to me as an indie author, and that is on my website, garrettbrobinson.com. Ryan, what do you got?
My thing to know this week is the WTF podcast. I've talked about podcasts before. This is one of my favorites, hosted by comedian Marc Maron, and just bringing it back around to Robin Williams. He recently reposted his interview with Robin Williams from 2010. It's a fascinating conversation, and it touches on a lot of the issues Robin Williams had been dealing with over the last 40 years.
Wow.
And Williams has some great stories about his time in stand-up. And overall, it's just a great podcast. I believe that Marc Maron will go down in history as one of the best 21st century interviewers. He's just a great interviewer.
Wow. Is he the guy that got the Latino comedian to admit that he steals material?
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, he's been a working stand-up for 20, 25 years, and then
Yeah.
he's been doing this podcast for 5 or 6 years now at least. And you can find it at iTunes, WTF, and that does stand for what the fuck, or on the website, WTFpod.com. And I went ahead and put the direct link to the Robin Williams episode there, too.
Awesome.
Excellent. Chad?
One other thing, I just want to back up a little bit and also tell people about Garrett also has an episodic. Basically, you can go into a subscription for his Nightblade thing, and it's a really cool.
Chad.
Yeah, well, it's cool. It's a cool thing, and it's really it's only like for $3 a month. You can get basically 4 episodes each week, which would normally be 99 cents. So anyway, it's a really cool deal. I'm gonna jump on it for sure and check it out. I think it's a cool thing. Also. One other thing is that yesterday I did my very, very first hyperlapse, and if you don't know what a hyperlapse shoot is, it's the same as a time lapse, except you're also adding camera movement, and it was a lot of fun. And the end product was cool and interesting, and I can't wait to show you. It's going to be in steps. But if you are a shooter, if you're a filmmaker and you've never done a hyperlapse, I highly suggest you do one. It's it's very interesting. It's its own. It took 4 hours, by the way, but it was a lot of fun. It was really cool. I had some really amazing help, by the way. Art Chong helped me out, and that's his real name is a lot more difficult to say than that, but that's what he tells people. And one day I'll figure out how to say his real name. But really cool guy, really a new member.
Subject? What did you shoot?
We just shot. It was just we were over like part of Culver City, and we just basically were showing from 4 p.m. from 4:30 until 8:30, basically just the sun setting and how it affects it. But it was basically, I'll show you. It's really cool. It was a lot of fun, and I had to deal with some of the imagery afterwards. If I were to do it again, I would do it a little bit different. But and maybe I will. I probably will do it again. It's a lot. It's a whole other way of doing film. And anyway, try it. It's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that is what you need to know this week. A quick reminder before we go, please, if you watch the show on YouTube or if you listen to the audio feed, go find it on iTunes under We Make Movies Film Geeks Podcast. Rate the show because we want to start bringing more people into the fold. Right now, we only have 3 reviews and 5 ratings. I want to get that number to, let's say, 250 by the end of the year. Let's do that.
Ooh,
250 ratings by the end of the year and 150 reviews. Let's go for that as a target.
Let's do it. That's good. It's a great idea.
And with that, I will call an end to this week's We Make Movies Film Geeks podcast. Thank you very much, Ryan, for coming in and filling in for Michelle. I've been Garrett Robinson. You can find me at garrettbrobinson.com. Chad is at superfreako.com, and Ryan is on Twitter at RDT156. We'll see you next week, everybody. Goodbye.